Hello, welcome to the stream. Hope everybody's doing well today. It's Wednesday. Yes. All right, today we're gonna finish up. I'm not late today. Kraton was already in the chat. Welcome. Yes, you're not late today. Welcome, welcome. All right, so today we're going to finish implementing this test we started yesterday. Essentially, it just tested what happens when we replace the 1000th effect with a 1001 effect. So we actually haven't written that behavior yet, but we wrote what it's supposed to do. So we basically have to write the implementation to make the test pass now. Hi there, Plasticky. Welcome. So yeah, we're gonna go in the effect manager and write that real quick. So under here, or excuse me, under it would be under add effect actually. So add effect is a template function, and so far we just made it so right now if we can find an empty spot we just add a new effect. But we now have to say, okay, well, the effect list is full, so the next step is to try and first identify which effect is the oldest, and from there overwrite that slot with a new one. So we have to do that. Now, one thing that this function did up here, and it might be a little subtle at first glance, is that we dropped all the effects that were already alive, right? So if this function returns true, it gets dropped. That's the whole idea. So essentially, this view makes it so we do iterate through every single effect in order to figure out if it's alive or not. And then we take one, and naturally we have to iterate through all of them. So if we're iterating through everything, we can actually identify which is the oldest effect up here while we're at it. So we're gonna go ahead and write that now. I think what we can just do is write it as an index. So if we know which index has the oldest effect in it, we can just overwrite that index, and that'll be the end of that. So let's go ahead and do that. We're gonna add a variable called oldest effect ID, or slot. Let's say int oldest effect ID. And the way we determine which one is the oldest effect is by simply comparing the alive time. So we're gonna need something that actually lets us know how long the oldest effect has been alive as well. So we'll add another variable, a float, for that one. Hello, Kyle. I believe you came into the chat yesterday. I started enjoying your streams. That's awesome. I'm glad you are enjoying them. Stream every day on the weekdays, working on my game project, so you're more than welcome to tune in and enjoy. I love to chat all the time about programming, so meeting other fellow programmers is part of the fun. So this is going to be the oldest effect alive time. And anytime we find one that is longer than the value we have stored here, we're going to replace that with a new one. Additionally, let's just set the oldest effect ID to -1. And if for some reason we get down here and the oldest effect ID is -1, then we have a problem because we reported that, well, all the slots are full, so how can the oldest effect ID be -1? So if it is for some reason, we're just going to error out and the game will crash, because this should never happen. So if it does, then memory got corrupted or something went terribly wrong. So here we're just gonna say, warning, the oldest effect ID was not properly populated. And then we just say the classic, this should not be happening. And we'll throw in unlikely tag on this as well. And then to implement this, we just, every time we iterate through one of these, we just say if oldest effect alive time. And the way I would like to do it is if it's a tie, we would like to use the oldest slot we've already identified. So I'm actually going to set the oldest effect alive time to a negative number as well. That way, no matter what, we'll start with the oldest effect, with an effect in there. So if oldest effect alive time is less than or just less than data.effect, this isn't optional, so we'll grab that. We already proved that it's populated because we did a Boolean comparison up here on the optional. So we just say data.effect, wrap that in EFF to turn it into an actual effect, and then we're just going to grab the alive time. So if the alive time of this effect is greater than the oldest effect alive time, then we're going to go ahead and set the ID and oldest effect alive time to it. So oldest effect alive time becomes this effect's alive time, and the oldest effect ID becomes whatever the current index is. And then right below here, the index increments. So after that, we're good. Finally, we have to pass these two values or variables into the lambda function because they don't, or because this is a lambda, it doesn't know about these two variables. Like so. And we pass by reference, that way they can be updated and written to. Okay, so now that we've done that, we've essentially identified which function is the oldest. So the next thing to do is to actually set that as the new slot to update. So we're going to now say effect list, oldest effect ID is now going to be equal to whatever the new effect we just created. We also need to grab a new effect ID before, as if we were creating a new effect anyways, and go ahead and assign it like so. And then finally, this function will return that new effect we just made. And we're not incrementing the active background or foreground effect count because we are replacing a previously lost slot. Now, does that necessarily mean that we've gained a new effect? I think it does, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Like, if the effect was dead, then the background effect count or the foreground effect count should not be hitting the limit. No, that's not the case. This goes down here when the effect list is full. So we're not going to increment it because we're overwriting a value. So we're not actually going to set the counts to be larger, which means we don't have to check to make sure they are larger than they used to be. And finally, oldest effect ID right here. It's already an int, so I'll just leave it like that. And I believe we are good to go. So this should be the implementation completed. So the next thing we're going to do is rerun the failing test that we wrote yesterday. This is the only one remaining that has failed. So I'm going to go ahead and let the project rebuild, and then we will see if our implementation was correct. So again, as we realized, our new templates that we added makes the build time take about 4 minutes now. So it is what it is. I'm not in the market, or I'm not in a position to obtain a system that can build this project any faster right now. So I'm just gonna have to deal with it. I still want to look at if we get like a day where we just want to be like low. If we just want a low code day, we might experiment with precompiled headers a little bit. I feel like my project can benefit from a couple of precompiled header things, but we're gonna have to experiment with that. Well, you can pull it up real quick. It's been a long time. PC. I think this will show everything. I hope. 13th gen Intel Core i7 13700F runs at 2.1 gigahertz stock with 32 gigs of RAM, and well, let's say what graphics card we have here. Not that that matters, but it's an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4070 regular. So it's like mid-average at this point in technology. But I always look at like a fast processor. That's usually what I'm looking for when I'm trying to get a new computer. So if anything, it's probably just possible to upgrade the CPU on my system. Yeah, it's the project's just really big, and it's full of, like, there are no precompiled headers, so when I change things, everything has to rebuild, like, literally everything, and I have a lot of includes. I probably should try optimizing the includes sometimes, too. Like, there are probably places where I include headers I don't need to, but the compiler will still attempt to make use of them. I think that's how that works, so we might have to mess with that one day, too. We can run this little git bash script real quick. Just, I think it's in here, or it might be in here. Is it in here? Oh, it is. Okay. So this project, without comments, and the code I've written has almost hit 50,000 lines, which is pretty significant. If we included every line, including all comments and all library code that I didn't write, then this project has almost 200,000 lines of code to compile. So it's a pretty significant project. Yeah. But yeah, I'm not in a position right now to actually afford or obtain new hardware, so this I'll have to do. So this test still fails. It actually called add effect and caused an error log, which is interesting. So that is unexpected. It says the oldest effect ID was not properly populated. This should not be happening. This happens on line 381. So line 381 is right here. Oh. Somehow I didn't set it? Or this didn't happen? And we know for sure that a lifetime should be... okay, that's interesting. Maybe it does... Maybe I misspoken when I said that it would iterate through everything to do a take one. I mean, realistically, this information is only relevant if we iterate through everything anyways. Yeah, this is as of... So my largest project I've ever written was a Java Minecraft plugin, and I maintained that for like 6 or 7 years. And that was about 43,000 lines of code. And so to see a project beat that now is kind of insane. So it's become my largest project I've ever tried to write, which is awesome. That's an achievement, right? Yeah. Long time coming. So I guess we're gonna have to debug this, because clearly this should be set to something that is not -1. So that's a little strange to me. Let's go ahead and get debug going. Let's breakpoint. Let's say we breakpoint in here, because this is probably where it's going to be relevant anyway. Actually, no. We don't want to do it yet. We want to first hit the... Let's see. Let's hit the point where we actually need to add another effect. So let's get to right here first, and then we'll look at what happens. Hi there, Moros. Welcome. Alright, so we're doing some debugging because our test still doesn't pass even if we wrote the implementation, so that's fun. So we're gonna go into add effect here in a moment when it decides to construct everything. Okay, so the effect list as we can see, the effect list is populated with 1,000 active effects. Yeah. And we populated both the background and the foreground effects, so the effect IDs are skipping by 2s, which is fine. That's what we expected. Yeah. So far so good. We set up some initial variables to track which effect is the oldest, and now we're going to iterate through that list. So every effect is assumed to be... Oh, that's interesting. I didn't hit F11, so I didn't actually go in. I forgot. Like, when you look at this, it's like if you're on this line, you would think going, what is it? More the on-screen celebrations. More bits. Throw more slimes everywhere. More biddies. Okay. You would think that pressing, usually I press F10, which would go to the next line of execution, but the next line of execution for views in a for loop takes you past, well, it will take me to this block, because that would be the views take, and then, yeah, it's like, it's weird when it tries to do view steps, so I need to actually use F11 to step into versus step, I guess I am stepping over. Anyway, go back in here. And then, okay. So now I press F11 instead, which is step into. So this is gonna be index 0, and then it just keeps, it's gonna keep incrementing. So it's gonna be like, okay, index 0 is alive. Oldest effect alive time starts at -1. It should be less than the alive time of this effect, which returns as 0.5. So because it's 0.5, it will naturally be greater. Oh, 6 gift subs. Thank you, Creton. Moros is now forced to watch. Moros has always been watching. But yeah, awesome. Appreciate that. Thank you. Alright, so let's see here. Oldest effect alive time has been written to be 0.0 now. Oh, because that's the alive time. I just realized that all these effects haven't been alive. Like, every single one of these effects has been alive for... Well, no, that's not true, because I purposely set one to 200. So all these are going to be 0 until we hit the 200 one. So, yeah, let's keep going, because presumably we're going to hit more of these, right? Like, we're going to keep hitting this breakpoint. And it's going to be the next ID, so this is index 1. And all the lifetimes are going to be the same, so this breakpoint won't... Or we won't go into here again until we hit effect ID 50. So let's conditional breakpoint to 50. We'll just say index is equal to 50. That's the next one we're actually interested in. So let me get rid of that breakpoint. And now we're here and index is 50. So this is the effect that should have an alive time that's 200. So we look here, or maybe not here, but we look at this value. And in here, we look for alive time, and we can see it's 200. So the alive time should be much larger than the oldest effect alive time. So it should now be 200, which it is, and the oldest effect ID gets set to 50. So now we know this, we should get all the way down here because the effect list will be full. It'll keep iterating until it hits down here. Oldest effect ID is not equal to -1. Oh, I found the error. I reversed the condition. What do you think about assembly language for game dev? I don't really think you need to do it unless you are crazy. If you want to learn how low-level programming works, then why not? But should you do it? Probably, probably not. If you want to develop a game that has moderate complexity in any reasonable amount of time. Maybe if you want to write like one very specific like thing to optimize with assembly, maybe you could, but you also have to be really good. You have to understand what you're optimizing. Like the point of writing assembly code is you get to manipulate everything at the lowest level. How many programmers realistically know how to do that and gain something from it? Hi Tiger, welcome to the stream. Oh, you're right. Yeah, I heard about that. Roller Coaster Tycoon was an assembly, which is pretty impressive. Like, that is damn impressive. Yeah, like, I'm sure I could, like, learn assembly and try to write something with it, but is it going to be more effective than me writing good C or C++? Probably not. Compilers are very smart, and they're very optimized. As long as you make it clear to the compiler what your intent is, a compiler can do most of that work for you. Yeah, it is very hard. At least from my experience. Like, I don't have enough low-level knowledge to get past a compiler speed-wise. You're going to build a game engine using C++. Nice. It's a fun journey. It's very fun. Do you know what rendering framework you're going to use? Do you have any goals in mind? Are you just building a game engine, or are you building a game for the game engine? Like, is the engine being built for a reason, or you just want to learn? I'm mixed on the whole compilers are smart, but that's because I understand more than most when it comes to lower level code optimizations. Well, that's good. I think that has a lot of value. Yay. Thanks for the hype train, Kraton. That was fun. But generally for the common programmer, usually trying to outsmart your compiler will get worse code. Yes, that is what I've noticed every time I tried. It's like, if I tried to do something really sneaky, like I tried to mess with like pointers, or if like I tried to do weird bitwise operations instead of just like writing, like set this variable to this and this other variable to this, then the code ends up slowing down and I'm like, well, okay. Compiler has me beat. I'm sure if I went to Compiler Explorer, I could figure out why, but I just don't know enough to really take advantage of that scenario. So you want to use Vulkan. Ooh. Have you made a triangle in Vulkan yet? I feel like that's a fun step. I always hear horror stories about making a triangle in Vulkan. Alright, so this test is gone, which means it's passed. So every test is now passed. So my effect system, for all intents and purposes, is running the exactly the way it should. Now, since I updated the add effect function, I'm going to rerun all the effect tests real quick to make sure no extra, like, weird side effects occurred. And then we're pretty much good to go to finally commit this and finish up this branch. So originally this is the Skeleton Fire Mage branch. Clearly we're not doing anything related to Skeleton Fire Mages for the last like week and a half. Except the Thunder Orb, which is supposed to be one of the abilities of the mages. So technically it's related, but it's indirectly related. So we're gonna finish this branch today. Oh, you actually did. Awesome. Congrats. Love to see it. Okay, so let me go ahead and commit this first. Implemented effect tests, effect unit tests, and finished implementing new effect system. Okay. So now the next question, is it performant? So the whole goal with this, and the original reason why I spent 1.5 weeks rebuilding the effects particle system, is because it used to be all heap allocated. Every single particle that was spawned and deleted caused a malloc, and caused a delete, right? Pointers everywhere. We removed that functionality and made it basically a visitor-like system. So essentially we do standard visit on every single particle now, and depending on what its type is, like the inner type, because it's now a variant, it runs the appropriate code. So it effectively still uses the inheritance system, but it doesn't use pointers and it doesn't use heap allocation, which is awesome. That's what we want. So the next thing to do is to try to run the game and see what the difference is. Before, when I ran it, I purposely made, like, this is how I, like, verified it, was I basically made the Thunder Orb continuously spawn 1,000 lightning bolts on the screen. 1,000 can sound like a lot, but realistically, we're just drawing 1,000 images, which doesn't sound like it should be much, right? All they're doing is spawning in and getting destroyed every, like, 0.03 seconds or something. In the grand scheme of things, when it comes to a computer, this is like nothing. It should barely take any compute, and it definitely should not slow down the game. Let me go to Monster Strategy real quick, just to see what the actual timing of this is. So down here, we wrote that the Thunder Orb Lightning Bolt... Okay, so 0.05 seconds. Basically, they live for a 20th of a second. So the unit tests were for the new effect system we implemented. Basically, how do I prove that the new effect system actually works? Because if I just assume that, like, I wrote correct code, right, then we're gonna find those bugs that we found earlier. We actually found a bug in the effect system that's been in part of the code base since 2023 by accident. So that was cool. We also have a function that is not defined. That's weird. Did we just never use it? So this is supposed to be... God, I hate that it does this. So this is a monster ability effect manager effect data. This static function is not found. That's weird. Effect manager. Or, excuse me, let's get to effect.h. This is where the effect manager lives. And it's saying the static function... It looks like the constructor is not found. Int, comma, struct effect. Const. This should be defined unless I messed up. Let me go to the implementation of it. Did I never fix this? The question is, why does it build in... Why does it build in the other build? Oh, yeah, it's just not here. I guess in unit testing, this constructor doesn't get used. Where'd it go? Oh wait, it's inline, right? Yeah, it's inline. Okay, so I have to write inline here, or I have to move it. Because it's a template, so it needs to be generated or defined. Wait, why is it a template? Okay, so if it's a template, it's supposed to get constructed on the fly, but only for when it's needed. Let me think about this. I wonder if... That's a weird error. Do you have a Discord I can join? Yes, I do. If you look on... In this case, my YouTube profile, I just have a list of links, and one of them is my Discord. I believe I fixed it. If not, I can also send you the invite link in the chat, but hopefully that works. If you're still having trouble, just let me know, and I will share the link. But looking at this, I did make this a template. I'm trying to remember why. Because it's like, okay, this is supposed to... Okay, maybe if I just write inline here. Let me try that. It's kind of weird. Because it's like, it's supposed to generate one per type of effect, but I also think... I also think since this is a variant, right? Like, no matter what is passed in here, like, all the lower types are sent in... Well, I'm trying to think if object slicing occurs here or not. If I pass it in as an effect, will it be stored as an effect, or will it be stored as the actual type? I think I have to actually test that, because this is being accepted as a reference. So if it's a reference, I think it actually knows what type it's supposed to be. We could probably test that while waiting for this. So, like, I don't even think that type, template is necessary. So let's say we have... We can even do it as just a function, right? Like any function. We call this like add. Or I don't even know if I should call it add. Maybe we can just do... Here, let's do this. Let's make a virtual void called print me, right? That way we can kind of do this thing. And we can just print out what we are, right? If it's the most derived type of class that's stored, then we would naturally expect it to say... like, whichever letter it's supposed to be, right? That's the idea anyway. So these would override them. I'll just make this an override final. And this would be B, and then this one would be C. So they all derive from type A, so they can all fit inside of a vector of variance of A, B, or C. So it will look something like this. We have classes A, B, or C stored in here. Just call this items, and then I will call... let's see. Yeah, I still need to make like an add function. So this will be like const auto add, accepting a new, and we'll just use A as the type, new item, and we will do, let's pass in the items list and just do items and place back on new item. That's effectively what we're doing. So if we do that, then we do add a new C, and then we call items 0. We have to get, let's just do standard get, because we know it's a C, and or not get. Is that right? Hold on. How do I extract this? I forget. Standard get. No, that should be correct. I assume so. Why is it not popping up with the... Are these private? Oh, they're private. Public. Okay. So there should be a print me. So hopefully that that prints out C. Yeah, generally you make it work first, right? And then you make it work fast. Okay, abort has been called. Throw bad variant access. Okay, so that tells me that it's probably an item A, right? Is this an A? Yeah, so the index of the variant is 0. And if we look here, index 0 contains an A type. So I guess we do need it to be a template. Okay, I mean, that's fair. I guess that proves that we would need that. Okay, now we have all this. So let me see here. Interesting that all of this... I'm not sure what is happening. Do I have the right project set up? I think, yeah. I set this as the start project. I chose release desktop. That should be fine. Should I just try restarting Visual Studio? Is it just very confused right now? Let me just try again. Maybe that'll fix everything. At least I hope so. Because if we have this, then I need to figure out what's going on, because that's strange. Smack Visual Studio on the motherboard. Okay, so yeah, like this unit testing project is building for some reason. It shouldn't be building. At least not if I selected the release desktop project. Am I going crazy here? Maybe I hit build on... Did I hit build in effect test.h maybe? Yesterday in my dream, I was using Visual Studio 2022. Oh, okay. That's what I used for my example project. Yeah, it keeps trying to do the tests build, which shouldn't happen. I don't care about the test project. Oh, wait. Why is this Adventure in Listoria? What is... I'm a little confused. It's like, is this the project selection? Because I have this set as the startup project, so I would think it wouldn't even... I don't know. Okay. That's a little weird. Like, this one's an Adventure in Listoria test, and that makes sense, but these shouldn't be. I thought my dreams were weird, right? Okay, we're back to this. And... Maybe I have to make the whole struct template. Let me think about that. Do I have to make the whole struct a template? I feel like I do. Okay, that's interesting. It's like... I don't know if that's gonna fix anything. It's kind of weird. Like, my thing now is that, like, these, it won't know what is its type. So it's like, that doesn't make sense, right? I don't think the whole struct should be a template. I want this... Maybe we can't make constructors templates, because that would kind of make sense, right? It's like, instead, I would have to make this, like, a set effect data or something. I couldn't make it as a constructor if I did it that way. Oh, you know what? I should just be accepting a variant, shouldn't I? That resolves all of this. What am I doing? So this should just be an effect T. That makes more sense. I'm just overthinking this. So making that an effect T makes that a variant so it can accept any of those types. That's the whole point of variants. So with that, we won't need a template, and that should actually properly build now. This is inlined though, which I don't think I can do now. So I need to actually take this guy and move it to the CPP file. Like so. And then we should be good after that. Okay. So is this happy? Oh, that needs to be a colon. Okay. Saw a video the other day of a grandmother blowing their grandchild's mind by telling them to smack a TV to fix it. That's funny. That's like when we tell people to blow on the cartridge if the game doesn't start. I love that. I had to do that a lot to get my Game Boy Color games to work on my Game Boy Color recently. Yep, it worked. I think it was more just the process of reseeding it rather than, I actually blowing into it, right? But yes, it did work, so we were convinced. It was like when I had my Windows 95 computer, it would just crash so often that I thought if my hands were cold enough that a computer freezing was literally due to what temperature your hands were when you touched a keyboard. That's just how often the computer crashed. So I'd do my best not to use my computer right after washing my hands or eating ice cream. It just crashed that much. That's how bad it was. It apparently says our effect. Oh, yeah. It used to be a struct. We turned it into a class. That's funny. Let me see. Wait, this is still saying that. Hold on. Why would it... Okay, that's not right. Monster ability. I think we gotta look there because something's wrong with monster ability. Like, it's just using the wrong thing. Let's take a look. What is going on here? So this apparently needs... or makes effects. Okay, so like we have add effect, and I mean that's fine. That does what it's supposed to, but we also call effect data? No, we don't call effect data here, do we? That wouldn't make any sense. Or maybe we do. Hold on. I don't think there's any instance of effect data here. There shouldn't be. So... It just says effect manager, effect data, the constructor is not found in monster ability.obj. Should I just like do a clean rebuild? Like that shouldn't be a thing. I don't understand where that is even coming from. I mean, it made sense when I had that template there, but well, it kind of doesn't make sense either way. Hopefully this fixes it. Anyway, oh, at some point, if we want a low code day as well, I should go through and clean up errors. Cleaning up errors sometimes is nice. So it just says that effect is redefined as a class. Effect... Is that effect type? Dan Messina. Thanks for the follow. Effect types.h line 65. Effect types.h line 65. Oops. Line 65, so it's defined as a struct here, and then it just says effect type name first seen as a struct, or seen using class, now seen using struct. See declaration of effect versus in what? Compiling source file fallingbullet.cpp. Fallingbullet.cpp. I guess we could look for it. Okay. Anyways, it's generating code now, so I think the rebuilding was all we had to do. Okay. Yay, we finally have our build again. God. It's been a while, huh? Okay. So knowing that our effect system works properly now, we should be right back at the point we were a week and a half ago. Except with a better effect system. At least in theory, a better effect system. So hopefully that is the case, and we end up with, like, more speed, right? And no bugs. The unit testing should have gotten rid of most bugs, but it's not necessarily foolproof, because if we didn't test something, then there could be some other problem, right? Like, that looks good to me. So we'll just see the Thunder Orb with, like, 1,000 now. So before it would tank the frame rate to like 10 FPS after using one. So now it's like 100, which obviously it goes down from like 400 to 90, but this is like spawning so many every like frame, right? So I think this spawns, so like they last for 1/20th of a second, so it's 1,000 every frame for a 20th of a second. It's actually more than that because each lightning bolt spawns more lightning bolts, but clearly that's way better than before. So, and we don't actually need that much, and there's no more stuttering. So all the issues we had before was fixed. This is more of a like stress test, right? That is like the worst case scenario of like spawning 1,000 lightning bolts every, more like 5,000 lightning bolts every frame, every 1/20th of a frame. So much, much better. But we only need 3, so we're going back down to 3. Or not 3. I think we did, was it 3? Oh yeah, I think it was 3. Yes. Alright. So now for the actual case. I think I chose 3. I remember the number 3 for some reason. Like, we were deciding what looked good, and I think we settled on 3. But yes, the biggest problem, and the part that took up the most time, was the constant allocations, like the deallocation, reallocation. Because it was, every single one of those was on the heap, so you just lose so much frame time just from that. But to hold 100 FPS with all those bolts on the screen versus it going down to 10, which is much, much worse, right? Because it's all like 100 FPS is, well, 100, whatever 100 divided by 1/10, right? 1/10 of a second per frame. So it's like, yeah, even like with this, before it was like stuttering because it just kept like generating all these, and it was like, it was bad, right? Now it's just like, it's not even being touched. Like, this is essentially much, much better. So I'm happy with that. I can also just tell like the frame rate or like the stuttering goes away. Uh-oh. What happened? We have a crash for some reason. Uh-oh. Well, it's something to do with an effect. It looks like before an animation sequence. Oh, did I never I never removed this. I remember we like wrote test code in here. It finally ran because there are monsters in the game that use this strategy. So it was like generating all these effects that don't actually, they're not stored. You're never supposed to just generate effects. So that's funny. It was just like, what is going on? Okay. Well, I'm glad we caught that. I'm glad I just randomly went there. Okay. But I'm very happy about it. We've basically hit like performance gain after performance gain after performance gain, right? We've increased, or we've decreased the loading speeds. We have increased the speed of loading items in the game. Like that, loading that file that I keep loading at the top, that used to take so long, so that doesn't happen anymore. And we just fixed the effect system, so it's good now. Let me go back to the base real quick and see if I can make the game crash. Why can't I go this way? Oh, that was intended. Okay. I feel like I should fix that later, but yes. Looks good. I'm happy with this. Cool. So, everything still works as intended. Better. Alright, cool. I'm happy to go ahead and commit this now and finally move on to more Chapter 4 monster AIs. Because what we just did, or what we just tested, was the final thing we had to do for our monsters. Oh, that's not true. We still have to do the monster, thank you. We still have to do the monster movement for it, but I think that that's kind of what we were gonna work on, and then we got all that stuttering, right? So let's look at the Skeleton Mage AI. Yeah, like we gotta look at this. This like needs work next, but we'll do a commit real quick. This is, what is this? Fix compile errors and game crash due to excess code, unnecessary code in left in do nothing strategy. That's release build 13222. Cool. Thank you. That has been a long time coming. I'm glad we can finally commit something. So we can look at this again now. Let me pull up the spec for it. So mages. So the mage tries to move to an area that is 700 to 900 range away from the player and wanders around randomly in this area. If the mage is inside the effect area of a skeleton flag, it tries to stay there in the 700 to 900 range. So basically, it doesn't always run away. It only runs away when the player gets too close or too far away. But if it's within the range of a flag, it should try to stay in range of it. Like, that has more priority. It's like, I almost feel like I want to make it a little more condensed. Like, okay, let's say you find a flag. I think there's more priority in staying there because the cast time decreases, the mana regeneration increases. So in that case, I think it's more beneficial to stay in it with higher constraints, even if your range is not necessarily that. So I think I want to change that just for, I think that would feel better gameplay wise. So we'll go for like within 500 to 1100 range, try to stay within a flag if you are within range of one. So we have to now detect if we're in range of a flag. So we're going to go ahead and iterate through all currently spawn monsters on the field. So I think we'll just do auto M inside of monster list. And we can filter it by, I guess I have to include it first, but that's going to be monster list. I already have the monster header, so I think I was attempting to do this before. And so this should be a pointer, a shared pointer. And then we are looking for, we're going to compare the distance from us to them. First of all, we have to see if it's alive. So we're already filtering by any monsters that are only alive. Because it's these monsters, they will die. At least, yeah, like a monster could be dead in this list. And we're not interested in those. So we're going to do a filter view to get rid of the monsters that we don't care about. So that's going to be return M is alive. I think that should be a valid function, I hope. And then only the ones that are alive, we're going to check if the distance, so we're going to do if util distance. I might have to include utils here. Include utils or util. If util distance from us to them, so oh, I have two M's here. This one should be other monsters. I'll just put other M here. So distance between our positions, so m.getPause versus other m.getPause is less than or equal to... Oh, we also have to determine if it's even a flag. That's another thing. So I guess we could filter out for that too. So it needs to be alive, and it needs to be running like a flag strategy. So m get strategy name. I don't know why these aren't popping up. Like, that's really annoying, but I'm pretty sure it's get strategy name. Contains We're just looking for, I think, flag. Let me verify that. Pretty sure that's what we want. Let's see. Skeleton Captain flag. And I want to know what its actual name is. So let's see. I forget where these are defined. I think in monster.cpp actually. Are they? Shrink to strategy map. I have no clue where I spawn these. Monster data? Monster strategy? I guess that would make sense if it wasn't something like that. No? I have no clue where this is. Let me look for types. Monster strategy? Inside of monster. Okay, there's that. There's these, but where's the... Oh, you know what? They're in the file. They're in a config file. Yeah, again, I'm just confusing myself. They are in here. So whatever these are called. So Skeleton Captain flag. Yes. It just reads it from that. So we go back here or somewhere. So yeah, we'll just say if it contains flag, it's a Skeleton Captain flag. At least the AI says it is. So then we're comparing distances. So we're interested in a 500 to 1100 range. We're gonna have to put that into like a config file. That way if we decide to change it, we can change it. So we're gonna go to our, well, I just had it open, but monster strategies. Let me put it on the side. And we'll go ahead and add in some variables for that. So we'll say, let's see. We have distance range from player, and we'll say flag distance range. And we'll just expand this. So we'll say distance to stay within spawn flags. Yeah. So we'll use this config variable to grab how far away we can be. So we need to be within that range. So we're gonna say if it's greater than or equal to config float array index 0. And then we're also gonna make sure it's within the max as well. And I feel like there's a function for this. I'm trying to remember what it's called. It's like... I feel like I saw in a standard library before. It's like to find out if a value is within like both a min and a max. Is it just like min max or something? Oh, returns the smaller and larger of two elements. Returns the lowest and greatest of the given values. Wait, I don't think that's what I want. Values to compare. Okay, hold on. So let me think about this. Yeah, that's not what I want. Min-max would be like, okay, if I need to know what the lowest and highest values in a list were. Which is not what we want here. I saw it before and I thought maybe that's what it did, but apparently not. We don't want to use clamp. It's more like we just want to know if a value is within two other values, which would be more like a numerical thing. I feel like something like that should exist. I feel like that's very much an algorithm-y item. Curious why you chose C++. It's because when I found this game engine called OLC Pixel Game Engine, which is really just a framework, it's not actually an engine. It was written in C++, and I was really looking for something that was really simple to use and get into, and so that became my language of choice. It's like I didn't choose the language. The language was chosen because this framework I really wanted to use was in the language. So that's when I started learning C++. Because I'm like, if I want to use this, it's so easy to use, I I need to learn C++. But on the other hand, what we got out of it, which I kind of liked, was that C++ ended up being a pretty fast language, and it's a pretty powerful language. It has a lot of expression, things that I've really come to actually really like. I've come to really enjoy using C++, which is awesome. I forgot to put closing parens. Hi, are you looking for a function that performs two relational operator checks? I have two distances, so a min and a max distance, and I have a distance to a target. And I want to see if this value falls into these two. And I was just wondering, maybe there's a function that already exists that lets me put, okay, here's value, here's the min value, here's my compared value, here's my max value. Is it in between those? Like, in between or something like that, right? That's kind of what I'm looking for. I don't think such a function exists in standard library. Obviously, it'd be really easy for me to write one. Ooh, in range. What is this? Returns true if the value of t is in the range of values that can be represented in R. Ooh. That sounds like what we want. In range of... Oh, wait. Wait, what? In range of a type... In range of values that can be represented by R. If t can be converted to R in a value per... How would I... So it compares using numeric limits of min and max. It's more for types, so it's not really for any particular numbers. How did I go about dismantling OC Pixel Game Engine? So the way I went about it was I decided, okay, first thing I need to do is try to write a very simple game with it, right? So I chose like a Mirka Chase little clone thing. Snake, if you will, but it's like more circular, so it's almost Snake. Let me just show it real quick. I was like, I need to make... Where's my stuff? This isn't my stuff. My stuff. Right? So I decided to pick a simple game to write something in, right? Snake would be a good, like, starting point. So I'm like, okay, make a... Oh. I didn't realize it has mouse controls, too. I'm like, okay, make something like this. So I basically made Mirka Chase from Neopets. So, yeah. Very simple. Well, simple enough to where I can focus on learning how to use it, right? So, yeah. The way I did it was... At least it's very easy to use in the sense of you start with... Why'd you go over here? If I go in... Why is this like... What happened? It's like very bright for some reason. Did I do that? I must have broke it. Okay. For some reason the window was super bright. So if you look in the header file, there's a giant comment block near the top. That's like, here's an example project. So I took this and I put it in a source file. You include the header, you put this in a source file, game runs. After I did that, I looked at what this was. I'm like, oh, this is a draw function. It's called draw, right? So then I looked inside this header file for all the draw functions, and I ended up finding... Oh, that is the wrong... It's searching my whole project. Let me go look for draw inside of this file, please. Thank you. I went to the... Not the definition, but the declaration of it, which is... I don't know why it's having trouble going to it. Thank you. And I saw all these drawing routines, so I'm like, okay, cool. This kind of gives us an idea of the capabilities of the engine. We can draw lines, circles, rectangles, triangles, whatever, right? So if we can draw things to the screen, if we can at least draw a pixel, we can draw things to the screen. We could write like an image loading routine and load all the pixels, blah, blah, blah. If we want to, but then I saw we had this sprite thing, so then I'm like, oh, okay, so what's a sprite? It lets us draw probably an image. It requires a sprite pointer. From my C knowledge, I knew that a pointer represented a block of an address to a block of memory that we might be able to use, right? So then I'm like, okay, well, what's a sprite? So you can search for like the sprite class. Give me the wrong thing again. Renderable sprite, take me to sprite, please. There we go. So here's the sprite class, and then I saw that it accepts a string of an image file, and I'm like, oh, cool. So I could probably load images into this engine. After that, you can use the draw sprite function we found earlier to draw images. So from here, you already have a baseline of, okay, you can put images on the screen. So how do you do input, right? You notice there's an enum key here, so you're like, okay, probably whatever keyboard function exists uses enum key. Look for anything that uses enum key. Again, just in my document, please. And I find a function called, where is it? Get key. So I'm like, okay, that sounds kind of like what we want, right? So I look here, gets the state of a specific keyboard button. It returns this HW button struct. So at that point, I'm like, okay, what is an HW button struct? Oh, it's got 3 values. Press, release, held. Nicely commented to tell you what it does. So you can either check if it's held down between every frame or between 1 or 2 frames. That's how you get key. And then mouse is right below it. The header is designed very well. It's very easy to get around it and easily figure out, okay, here's everything I need to do. So that's kind of how you get started. Once you have keyboard, once you have mouse pulling, once you can load images or draw on the screen, you have all the basics you need to create a game engine. Then you have to actually learn the C++. That's where you start doing like language specific stuff. So then you start pulling up something like, okay, well, how do I do the stuff specific to the language? You can pull up something like learncpp.com, which will teach you the actual language. So then you can take all the concepts of that game library that you have and start using them through learning how to use C++. So you can effectively use the engine to learn C++. Also, this engine is available on the YouTube channel JavidX9. He has a lot of videos that uses his engine, so you can get a good idea of how to actually use it in practical applications on his YouTube channel. I highly recommend watching it if you are interested in using the engine specifically, or just to get a little bit of idea of how to use C++. I mean, you can watch me code as well, but this project is very far in and very advanced, so it does get very hard to follow. I think most people that watch my stream just get most of the programming process, not necessarily are able to follow along 100%, unless I give a lot of context, which sometimes I do. Sometimes I review what I'm doing for my own self. I hope that explanation makes sense of how you would like go about starting to use a game engine and learning a programming language. That's like the thought process behind it. I think C++, at least the basics of it, can be done pretty easily. Like if you write C++ that uses C, mostly, that looks like C, you can get pretty far just with pointers, references, and maybe like classes that just act as structs, like just hold data. You can get pretty far with that. You don't have to use like the deeper features of C++. Once you're good at that, you can actually like start adding in like some flavor. Like my very first, like, I basically got the Pixel game engine a week before I entered the code jam for the community, the Pixel game engine community. And I'm like, I'm going to use this Pixel game engine that I just learned a week ago, which is when I made that snake clone thing, to try and make a game, because I can get stuff on the screen, I can make something I want. So then I made this thing called Seasons of Loneliness, I think. That's this project? Yeah, it uses some old build system I made up a long time ago. Anyway, oh no, not this one. Sorry. I think it's just called Season 1, which is kind of weird. Is it? Let me see. I'm trying to see... Did I call it Season 1? No, I think I call it Seasons of Loneliness. I have two season projects, so I always get confused by them. Anyways, there's one CPP file, which is very notable. I'm like, my Code Jam project, I literally just threw everything in one giant file, right? Which is very common. But I also pretty much used C-style C++, which is probably what you'll do the very first time because you're unfamiliar with C++, is you'll probably, like, stuff a bunch of things in giant enums, and you'll have basically like just data structures with variables that are held in it. You'll have a lot of pointers everywhere. And I even used, I think, yeah, like you can just kind of tell, even the map, I think, was like a two-dimensional array. It's like, there is almost no standard library in here. I even use new everywhere. Yeah, this is very much like week 1 of C++ type of code. So there's nothing wrong with that. You can start that way, and my Game Jam entry got it won. So it's not like this is whatever you end up with, like that is what you end up with. Nobody's gonna look at this code at the end of the day and be like, this code's so horrible, you failed to make a Game Jam entry. Like, nobody cares at the end of the day, right? So yeah, it's like this all looks like C essentially. I think the only C++ feature I used were the structs and classes, which is more like just the syntax is different. But other than that, yeah, like you can see there's like deletes everywhere in here. It's actually hilarious. I think it looks like I started using like lists at some point. I was able to figure that out a little bit, but man, this code is funny to look at. Good times, very good times. And you know, it's a Code Jam setting, so you're also pressured on time. Does it leak? I don't think so. And it was pretty easy to tell because when I'm running, when I was running the project in Visual Studio, I kept an eye on this, right? I think like on day 1 or 2, I did make it leak a lot. So it was leaking, and then I spent like hours debugging it, which is pretty natural. It sounds very like C coded, like when you're writing in C and you create memory leaks, and then you realize, then you have to track it down, and it's a pain. Okay, so if this statement is true, it means we're in range of a flag. So if we're in range of a flag, we're going to try and stay in it, provided the distance remains. Like, we're actually not going to do anything. So if we're not going to do anything, I guess let's just set a boolean and return, because we don't need to stay in here after. This is because this is a lambda, right? Yeah, so we can just return out of this lambda after we set a boolean that says in range of flag. Flag is false by default. Actually, we have to find out what the flag's range is, because the flag might have a smaller range than this. Oh, the range is 600. Perfect. Also, this isn't in pixel distance, so we have to actually divide this by 100 and then multiply by 24 to convert it to in-game pixels. We use 100 as like a unit distance. The game designer does. The Code Jam was, I believe, 8 days. 8 days to develop, and then I think 2 weeks to rate. I mean, as you can see, this was like 4,700 lines, so that one I developed was like basically supposed to be a little like survival RPG game. So it's like a turn-based survival RPG. So like you can see here when it loads. This was also the first year the Pixel game engine built on Emscripten. So it's like, oh cool, like a web build thing, right? So it's like, that's cool. But yeah, like literally added like a little like cutscene to the start, and it's like, okay, we have to export things. Graphics or whatever, just like programmer art, right? Because obviously I didn't really care for that. It's like we added like text system, we had like a storyboard system, we had like particle effects, right? Added like stats and abilities, so that's fun. it's like my goal with this one was to, I wrote a little story and I'm like, I wanted to basically, I wanted to tell it. So I'm like, okay, I like had a plan going into it. So it's a whole thing, but it's like, as you can see, it's also very simple. The focus was on all the gameplay. Like, that was the goal. But I mean, you can see it's like, it's legit. It was like, I just kind of pushed to work on stuff. And then we go down here. I think there's a little monster I put down here that we can fight somewhere. Anyways, yeah, you're supposed to like explore a little bit, and eventually, I think the biggest thing players were complaining about was they had no clue what to do. But like, if you're supposed to read the text, right? That's always the flaw, is like, there's no quest marker, so it doesn't tell you where to go. So the dialogue tells you where to go, but you don't actually know. Unless you actually read. But yeah, like, then we had a little like battle system. You get to like choose different abilities you have, and you get to use them. Some have like ranges, so you can only target very specific spots. And each ability does different amounts of damage, and then monsters take their turns and you take damage, right? So it's like, it's pretty fun. The concept was there. The theme was weather, so like all the abilities are like weather based or do something weather related. So that was fun. That's pretty much it. And the game has like 3 or 4 bosses, and like these are like things you can collect in the world, so you get more abilities. So the idea was to let players like explore a little bit. So you can see it's kind of like a feature-rich game, and I kind of went all out with the ending. Like, the game properly ends with like you doing an epic boss fight, which is actually very hard to defeat. I like tuned it so you could like barely win. So that was nice. That was my first entry. And then the second one was like an RTS. It was like kind of based on like a little like StarCrafty, but it was more like hackerish. Like, you were basically a hacker trying to infect other systems, and like the units represented like viruses or files essentially, and they all had bits. Like, all their stats were represented in bits, and you had like bit shifters that can move and adjust everybody's stats like up or down. So it was kind of a funny concept, and like at the end of the day you're just trying to delete everything. So that was fun. And then my third entry was like it was highly inspired by a Nintendo DS game called Pokemon Dash, where you have a bunch of hamsters and they race. But the most fun thing about that was that you end up like getting to like take off into the sky. And for that one, I actually had Moros, who's one of my viewers, work with me on it. So we collabed. So I think my my certificate has expired, but I'll go in anyways. But yeah, like, the idea was to have like an online like API. So like, this is like a preview video of the game. This is like the launch page, right? So, but like eventually you find an ability that lets you take off into the sky, and that was like the big thing for this. And then you have like leaderboards, so these are served from a server. So like, I had a bunch of players, like everybody that played in the Code Jam that played my game like submitted scores, so it was kind of fun. Internet always needs more racing hamsters, yeah. So unfortunately I didn't win because there was an even better entry, but this was still a really fun game to make. But this one was inspired by Pokemon Dash, so like you had a bunch of checkpoints and you could really do them in any order. So part of the fun was trying to figure out like your racing strategy, which one you went to first, second, third, and so on. Yeah, they were all 8 days long. I only participate in the OLC Code Jam because I have a thing of not really doing Code Jams. I'd rather work on like bigger projects, because it's not that I completely hate Code Jams, I just don't think a lot comes out of them. Like, I end up making a game, it has a start point and an end point. Once I'm done, right? Like, some people say that this inspires you to make like bigger projects and stuff, but I'll be for real, with how much I add in my games I make, I would have to redesign them from scratch anyways. And the inspiration for these ideas comes from ideas that I've either already done in the past and just refined, or are new ideas that have a clear goal, like a start and an end. Like that RPG game you saw, I was like, okay, I have a story to tell. How am I going to tell it? How am I going to present it? And so I never really had intentions to expand on it, but I wanted a bigger project. So this is like my bigger project. This is the 3+ year project where I get to actually maintain and build a very, very large game. And I'm having a blast with it. And it taught me a lot about C++. And by this point, I've already made like 10 to 20 like big projects with the OLC Pixel game engine. Not big in this, as large as this, but like significant enough to where I had like prototypes of all sorts of things. I was a lot more comfortable with C++ by the time I finally got around to working on this. So yeah, that's kind of my story. That's like a brief rundown of what the last like 6 years of of my C++ life has been. Good times. Okay, so this means we get to set this flag to true when this happens. And then if we are in range of a flag, we're not going to run away. If not in range of a flag, then we run away. That's the idea. Yeah. But we also have to check if we're in range of a player. So like, wait a second. I did this wrong. This distance is supposed to check for like player distance. So first of all, before we even do a check for all flags, we need to see the distance, our distance from the player. So let's do that. Game, get player, get pause, and we're gonna see if that is within range first. As in, if we're far enough away from the player, but not too far, we're gonna try and search for flags. That's the very first step we have to do. And then afterwards, then we see if we're actually in range of a flag. So we have to grab the skeleton flag haste buff range. So we gotta do that. So check our position to other M's position compared to... We have to be within... We have to be less than or equal to that flag's range. So this is under... I think the base object of this is called Monster Space Strategy. Oh no, it's just one word. So it's Monster Strategy dot skeleton captain flag. Because the way my config system works is it's a bunch of nested objects, so we can drill down to one particular value just by throwing in some dots and getting to the actual value we're interested in. So we're looking for the haste buff for range value, and it's a float, so I added this custom operator _f to convert that to a float. And if that's true, then we're in range of a flag. Okay, so that should be the logic. So if we're to just run this, it should be doing normal behavior because we're not spawning any flags. And then we'll go ahead and spawn in the skeleton captains, which can drop flags, and then we'll see if they can stay within range of the flags, which should happen. It said there was a syntax error? What? No matching token? Uh-oh. In here? Did I, like, press a button by accident? Adventures in the Story.h line 100. No matching token. What? It's down there. I promise. That's weird. Usually if that happens, it's like there's like a circular include or something, because I mean we can see that's clearly there, right? Should I really just try to rebuild this thing? Like, I don't think there's anything wrong here. Like, let me look at git changes. Maybe I accidentally typed something I wasn't supposed to. This is all we changed. We added in util. We added all this and we were done. And that's it. Oh, these are mismatching, I think. Okay, I didn't see that. So, yeah, we messed up. I forgot to close the if statement that we made. Okay, that's better. And then this now matches. Okay. So yes, we did have mismatching tokens. It just bled into the... what do you call it? It just bled into the header file. Game's pretty smooth. Is the map procedurally generated or a fixed map? Adventures in Lestoria is... they're all fixed maps. So what my game designer makes all the levels, and so we use Tiled to build our levels, and then my game just reads them in. So like once this loads, because this is probably loading a bunch of stuff right now. Yeah, you can see here this is one of the maps in the game. So my map editor, he goes in and he adds in everything related to the game, all the items, the objects, the spawns, and then it just runs. And then my game engine parses everything about these to create the game. Ended up working pretty well. I had a viewer last week ask, like, do I have my own map editors? But it's like, realistically, like, Tile does pretty much everything I need it to do, so we chose that. Plus, I have a game designer, and they are not, like, program savvy. Like, I can't give them my source code and have them build the project and, like, or open the game and edit stuff and then save the file. Like, that's just too much, right? So I'm like, here, Tiled has, like, a project system. You can save all the maps, just load this executable, it does the rest, right? Have to keep it simple for designers. Not that they can't code or anything. Some designers that can program and, like, design are great, but not everybody can. Yeah. So I wasn't testing this, so let me go to an actual map. Let's go over here. And let's see. So run away. It's within, it stays out of range of the player, which is expected, so that if statement does not get triggered. So the next thing we have to try is with the skeleton captain. So let's add a skeleton captain into, I'm gonna close a bunch of tabs because too many are open. Let's go ahead and add one in. And then we will try that. So, skeleton captain spawns actual flags. Why isn't that working? I'm on the wrong layer. And I have to know how this works too, because I'm the one that has to parse and design everything related to it. So yeah, set the spawn. And then we'll just rerun the game. Has to recache the map. Then we're good. So now when the skeleton captain spawns a flag, we should notice that the mage will stay within range of it, and the range is more strict. So like if I bring the mage down here, yeah, it doesn't move away until I'm much closer to it. Which is a good thing. That means, like, it can get the benefits of the buff. Oh, that's one other thing I want to add. I want to add a circle around the flag so we know what the range of it is. So let's do that real quick. That's a pretty easy thing we can do. We're just gonna, when the flag spawns, we'll just create an effect that lasts for as long as the flag does, in terms of duration. If it dies, though, then we have to get rid of the circle because it's not active anymore. So let's go ahead and make a an enum that represents state. So the flag is going to have two states. One at the start. It should just gonna be like the spawn state, and then this is the update state. So we'll do switch on our current I think it's like get state. Yeah, it's been a minute since I used this. I think I just called it state, I'm pretty sure, in all caps. Like, yes, there is a get state, but I have like something that is similar that I use instead. Let me look at something else that has a state right now. It's been a minute. We haven't been able to work on like AI stuff in a minute. So, oh, it's phase. Okay. So yeah, we have phase and set phase, which are just macros that kind of do things under the hood for us. Yes, it's a real-time effect. And yeah, if you actually watch, the frame rate dips when it runs, as you might expect, because each pixel is simulated. That's a fun little effect. And it was designed by the creator of the Pixel game engine himself, so it's kind of cool. It's one way to make your project compliant with the license, is just including that. That's all that is required at the bare minimum, but I give kudos in other ways as well. So considering how large the project is and how much I've gained from using the Pixel game engine to learn, I have no clue where this thing is right now. OLC PegX? Here it is, splash screen. Yeah, so it's purposely condensed. Like, there's an image, but it's scrambled. Well, I don't think it's scrambled. It's more like these all represent something, right? Like there's like 3 or 4 colors or whatever. They get parsed and bit shifted and whatnot. There's just some magic to make that happen, right? And then here's the update that simulates every pixel, particle, and where they go and whatnot, right? So that's fun. It is very cool. It's just fun little idea that they came up with a long time ago. Okay, so based on phase, we have the spawn phase, which is going to be the initial phase. I actually usually call this initials, so maybe I will just say initial here instead. So in here, we're going to spawn a new effect, and then in the update phase, we do everything else. And then we just set the phase to update after 1 tick. And the reason why we have to do this phase system is this is code that runs every frame. We're inside of a monster AI script, essentially. This is how we do monster AIs. So if I want to split up like the phases or do only certain things, I usually have to have a state machine inside the monster's AI. So this is how we do that. So then I can set the phase to update after 1 tick of running initial. Inside here, we'll just create our effect. So we have game add effect, which we recently redone. I think I have to include game because it's a global pointer. And then inside of here, let's see. We need to also include Adventures in Listoria. Cool, like so. And then we can do add effect, and we just want to add a circle. So we can do a generic effect here. So we want to provide a position. It's going to be at the monster's position, well, the flag's position, which is also coded as a monster. The lifetime is going to be the lifetime of the flag, so we have to get that from a config parameter. That is right here. It's called... Oh, actually, it's in Skeleton Captain? Okay. Wait, does it just oh, it just lives. I thought it had a duration. It just lives until this thing dies. So we get to set it to infinity. And what else do we have to set? Let's set the image file. I have like a blue circular image, like a target range icon that I typically use for ranges, so we'll use that here. It's pretty small, but I think it will work for our scenario. I use it for a lot of like circles in the game. Where is it? I could use that too. That's a kind of nice one. I could also use this one. I kind of like that for like a buff range, although it's blue. I kind of wish it was red. I mean, I could tint it, or I could use this. I prefer to use block.png. We'll see what it looks like when tinted like a little red. So we'll do block.png. What's the size? It's 24 by 24. So I'm gonna have to convert that based on how large I want the circle to be. So next parameter, is it on the upper level? So we follow the upper level flag for the monster. And then we have a fade in, fade out. I think I want to use a different constructor, because I don't care for those. Okay, so we want to use this constructor where we specify a VF2D size. And I think that's just scale. Do you use LLMs for any part of your workflow? I do not. I don't really have a use for it because I don't really have to like rush. I can just take my time and make everything myself. So that's what I do. I feel like the only real use for LLMs is to speed up your processes, but I don't really have that need, so I haven't used them. And I do get that question a lot. I think it's a little more common nowadays to see or expect that that can be a thing. Oh, I'm sure there are. I heard a rather interesting one. Somebody was trying to figure out how to like emulate an effect, like a very specific like rendering effect in an old like NES game or something. And what they did was they had AI analyze the visuals of the game and reproduce or like come up with decompiled code that was readable to emulate that effect so that they could then actually make an effect just like it. I thought that was rather fascinating. Literally, like, it simulated an entire retro game to generate the code for a specific effect. Which is very interesting. I think that's a very unique use of it. And yeah, I think the biggest thing is they do use like stuff that already has been made, right? So that's naturally what they're good at doing. Yes, like if you don't know what the code that's being generated does, then you're kind of screwed. That's the pitfall, right? That's the trap. If I were to, in theory, use AI generated code, I would actually take it, review it, correct it, or revise it to be under, like, you know, any particular like mistakes with coding conventions, or I wouldn't type it like this, I would type it like this, right? And then I would literally just be scrutinizing it line by line. I always thought it would be a fun thing to do one day, like to try and generate a project. Like if I wanted to make like, okay, let's make like a system to move a player on a screen with a scrollable camera, right? Like we start like using it for that and seeing what it does, and then we get to scrutinize the code. We could be like, oh, it did this correct, but it didn't do this correct, and it says it compiles, but it doesn't. Can it figure out why it's wrong, and then like see if it hallucinates or just generates more code that is nonsense? Like, does it make the problem more complex? I feel like that's always like a fun experiment to try. It's like I'm testing the LLM instead of the LLM trying to generate stuff for me. I'm just curious, right? That's always been a fun thing to try and do. But I like the process of programming. I want to touch and make every single line of code of my game, so I don't use it. Alright, so the size of this thing, so it's already 24 by 24, so the scale will have to be divided by 24, whatever it is. So, we have a haste range, which is 600. We have to convert that. So again, we have to grab like this monster strategy variable. Oh, wait, this is inside of the actual flag, so we can just do config float haste buff range. And we actually have a function that converts it to pixels already, so we can do config pixels, which will give us the distance in pixels instead. And then, since we know it's in pixels, now we just divide by 24 to get the scale. So let's say the range was 48, then the size of this thing should be 2 times that, in theory. I think the range is a radius, though. So if it's 600 radius, that doubles it, right? So I think this should be divided by 12, not 24. Let me think about that for a second. So the image is 24 by 24. Let's say the range was 100. So we do 100 divided by 100. Times 24, we get 24, right? So 24 divided by 12 will give us a 2 times size image, and if it's 24 by 24, that makes it 48 by 48 centered. That means 24 pixels in all directions, so that would be the correct value. So that's the actual value we need. And then finally, a fade out. Fade out time will be, let's actually make it like half a second. That way it doesn't just disappear instantly. It will also be a background effect because we don't want it covering up stuff. LLM code is not equal to skills. That is true. And yes, also, I think another hilarious thing about AI, at least right now, is it's not very efficient. I could literally ask it a very basic question, and I've literally, like, burned tons of energy for like no reason. Like, you have to kind of get your worth out of each query, otherwise you just wasted a bunch of energy, which is hilarious. Like, I could ask it what day is it today, and it takes so much compute, right, to figure that out. Like, it's not intelligent in any way. It has to look up stuff. It has to figure out a response. There's also that, right? Like, every time I see AI, so this is like, if AI is implemented, you know right away because you go to any page. What is the lunar eclipse? And you'll always see, okay, this one's cached, so that's cheating. But when they're not cached, you see a bunch of bars, right? Like, it's loading something, but somebody looked up what the lunar eclipse was already, so that's cached. And so, yeah, you always, like, get a response that takes, like, 2 or 3 seconds to process, and you're like, what is it? What are you doing all that for, right? And there's also that, yeah. But that's a whole nother topic, right? How it is utilized in businesses and corporate environments. And that's one of the arguments I make for AI is that, like, I'm not in a rush. I don't have, like, a code quota. I don't have a boss, so I'm not being expected to use what people are paying for, like AI software, right? So I'm kind of free from that. Like, there's no pressure for me to even consider it. And I really don't want to. That's not why we're here, right? We're here to have fun coding. And I enjoy coding. I really do. Okay, so the goal here is we need to actually store this effect somewhere, because if it dies, we need to reference it and say, okay, you're done. Like, we have to kill this effect. So we have to store this effect somewhere. So we're gonna grab a property. We're gonna make it an any property. And let's just call it, let's see, do we have like something that stores like I guess we can make one up, because I don't see one that kind of works here. Let's just make one up real quick. Oop, I have to go to monster attribute. So we have this system where we can store any... We can set any of these attributes of a monster to anything. Like, we can define a type, and then once that type is set for that attribute, that's like a new variable for a script. So here we're just going to store... I'm going to put custom effect. And in this case, we're using a standard any. So this is going to be a custom effect. And we're going to say equal to the result of add effect, which is going to give us an effect ref. And then later we can extract that effect ref in order to re-access that variable. So the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to set the onDeath function for this monster. So we're going to say onDeath, or excuse me, we don't want to call onDeath, we want to do set strategy death function. And I believe, let's see, it accepts a function that returns a bool. I believe the bool, let me see. The function should return false to indicate the event is over. If the event should keep running, return true. Okay, so we're going to return false after we resolve it. The arguments are an event, which I don't think we care about, so we're not going to actually set it. Monster, we do care about the monster and the strategy. Standard string strategy. And it's also a ref, right? Yeah. Strategy. And we have to return it as a boolean. Or we're forced to return a boolean. This returns false after it runs. And in here, we need to grab our custom effect. And we need to first anycast it back to what it was. So it's an effect ref of type effect. And then we should be able to access it after that and set its lifetime. Oh, wait, is this a effect ref? We have to do .get. We assume it's alive still, so .get will give us that effect. Then we do lifetime, which we're going to force to be 0, and that'll force the effect to now die. The funny thing is, AI in this manner, meaning LLMs, is not a new concept, it's just the hardware became more viable. And with the empty promises of Sam Altman and the industry foaming at the mouth of replacing their expensive engineers, a frenzy was created. The Silicon Valley ideals and all, burn money until you're big enough to monopolize and turn a profit. Right, it's like, who's got the most money to throw away at this until there's like one left to essentially fund and research the rest of it to make it, you know, more effective. That's like, it's like an arms race, right? It's an arms race within the technology sphere, and it happens with everything. I'm definitely a bit disappointed every time I try to use it to help explain something to me and it works well. I mean, I don't think there's any shame in that. It's just an advanced search engine. It would be like me going on Google or CPPref and looking up something because I don't know it, right? It's the same thing. It's just a curated search engine. It's like, oh, you might not know what you're looking for. I know what you're looking for, right? I think one of the hard parts of searching for what you need is knowing what to search for, right? Like, that's a key searching skill. And people might lose that if AI, like, continues to be prevalent. Like, people might forget how to effectively make search queries for search engines because they might not have to do it anymore. They could just be like, hey, AI, there's this thing that I don't know. Actually, my friend found an old game because he didn't know what it was, so he described the game to an AI and it found it for him. So there are fun things like that where you don't know exactly what you're talking about, but the AI can figure out what you're talking about for you and get you the result, or point you in the right direction. It's a lazy way of searching? Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, people are probably going to lose their ability to effectively use search engines if they keep relying on it, right? Try not to lose Google Foo. We're doing our best. Yes. Okay, so this is all we have to do here. This makes the effect go away when this dies. And I think that's all we have to do to make the circle effect appear and then disappear. I do want to change the color of it though. I think there is a blend color that comes with the effect, so let me try and grab that. So we have to anycast it again. And let's do a .get, and then here it is, additive, well, no, that's not what we want. We're looking for like a blend color or something. Oh, here, color. So let's just set this to a dark red and see what happens. Hopefully that's all we have to do there. And I think we're good. Okay, so let's go ahead and build all this that we just did. So now we have a circle that appears. Oh, you know what? I wanted to make the alpha too. It's probably gonna like be, it's gonna cover, I imagine this thing is not fully transparent, so it's probably gonna cover a lot of the terrain. So probably have to change the alpha on it too. Yeah. It's fun to talk about though. I love having discussions just in general about, especially how like the programming world is like shifting because of, you know, these kinds of things, right? Like it's at the point where I've gotten comments like, wow, you just code. Like you don't use LLMs. That's crazy. And I'm like, that's just what people have done before LLMs were popularized. Right? That's just, to me, that's just normal. That's just how it works. And then there was the other extreme. I found a funny one day. Let me see if I can find it again. I thought it was just hilarious. Let me see. I'm just waiting for this to build. That's why I'm goofing off in programming. No, let me see. Yeah, I can't find it, but there was a funny image I found one day. Or a funny comment I found one day. It was great. This is the best way, no vibe coding? Some people would argue against that, but anyways, the comment went something like day like 400 whatever I have in my title, right? Okay, so there's the circle, which is indeed what I'm looking for. So there, it's too dark, so we have to change that, but it is there now. Let's kill it. And then it fades away. Excellent. That's all we wanted. But it's too dark, so we have to make it not as dark. Let's just do... So dark red, I think, is 64 for red. No, it's 128. So I do like that color, so we'll stick with 128, 00, and let's just do like... let's do like 72 on transparency. I think that'll be okay. No turning back when vibe coding? So just to clarify, because I'm actually not entirely sure on the term, vibe coding means you entirely program with prompts, right? Like, basically, I've even heard, like, you can assemble an entire environment that hands over control of, like, your file systems, right? To create every file for you, to build, to grab, like, dependencies and stuff. Like, to think that is a possibility now is wild. AI codes for you. You are the manager of the junior dev now. The junior dev is the AI. I don't even know if it's a junior dev. It's more like it's like just creating code in the hopes that it works. AI code is equal to vibe coding. Okay. I just want to know, like, is it like 100%, 80%, 20, right? Like, what percentage is it? Is it just like completely hands off? You literally don't code? Or it's like you probably review code, right? You're like, yeah, that looks about right. Like, let's just say theoretically it generated, oh, let me think of a good one. In theory, right? Let's just say it threw this at you. And you're like, yeah, that looks good. Commit it. Right? It's like that's what I'm imagining. Like, I would not sit here with a new system that AI produces and be like, I'm not reading all that, but at the same time, I also don't want it to be responsible for all that. It's like, sure, you generated all this, but I now need to go through and spend, what, hours understanding it? And that must be, like, the skill set, right? It's gonna give me a new, like, header file with the system, a new source file with the implementation, and I have to read all of it and understand it and debug it. I think that's the worst part, is, like, it might not even work. Which is wild to me. Like, it's just theoretical scenario. Pretend it gave you this file, right? And I'm just looking at this like, okay, why are we even doing that? Like, the first question, why are we clearing a list? I mean, it's an initialize function, so why would we clear it? I know, because I wrote this code, that we use this in unit testing. This is a global list. We need to restart it because initialize is called every time a new instance is created when we start a new unit test. And AI won't tell me that, right? Can I just like be like, explain to me what item enchant info initialize does? Or why did you write this line in item info? Am I going to do that for every line of code? Because I don't have the precursor to understand why it did what it did? Right? Like, that sounds nuts to me. It's like I have to understand what it generated, and I have to then know that. And I don't even trust that the AI will know that it knew that. Like, it's probably gonna generate something else later and be like, here you go, here's another file. I'm like, okay, but what does this have to do with this other system? How does this one work? That gives me a headache. That gives me a headache. Like, I know why I did this. I wrote it. I know why I did this. I wrote it, right? Like, that's the insane part to me. And then, oh, security. I didn't even think about that, but I've heard horror stories. Yeah. Like, once the code becomes too unmanageable and you don't know what it's doing and you're just like, it looks good, ship it. And then there's a security problem? Oh no, now you're in deep trouble. Yeah. So I feel like it wouldn't be fun if all I was doing was reviewing AI code all day long, because it's probably a very tiring process. It sounds exhausting. What do you mean read access violation? Oh, is that just from earlier when I ran it? I wanted to rerun it real quick, because I wanted to see what the color looked like. I don't know why it stopped. Anyways, we get to commit this, and we're finally done with this monster AI, and we can work on a new monster. I think I already hinted that the rest of the monsters of Chapter 4 are pretty simple, because they don't require new systems, so that's a good sign. Like here, let's see. Spider. Unit is stealthed if it's further, so what does stealthed mean? I guess, like, we just can't see it. Like, it'll, like, fade in and out if it gets in and out of range. I assume that's what this means. Like, we won't know of its existence. I kind of like that mechanic, so that's a new mechanic. I'm just trying to think, okay, how would we implement that? I think we have control of the blend color of entities, so we could dynamically make it a thing just in the AI itself. That's probably the approach we'll take. But we can also see it just uses Dagger Goblin behavior. So we get to just throw the Dagger Goblin AI code right in there. Okay, so I like this better. It's a little more faded out, and it doesn't obstruct as much. So I like this. This works. So yes, I'm happy with this. We kill it, it goes away. Cool. Alright. Very happy with this. And now we get to commit. Did I change map 4.1? Oh yeah, I added a spawn. Okay, so this is completed Skeleton Fire Mage implementation, finally. Oh, the last thing I have to do, I always have to do this before I can submit, is I have to make sure all the tests pass. And yes, we've been testing all the time, but you never know, right? So we have to do it one more time before we can actually commit this and push this into master. So let's go ahead and we're gonna run everything once it builds. Completed Skeleton Fire Mage AI. Finished implementing Thunder Orb. And added a range indicator for Skeleton Captain Flags. This is release build. (13228). And I don't think it'll let us commit yet, but oh, it does. Cool. Now we just have to wait for unit tests to run. But yeah, we get to work on more content now. So now that I'm going through this, like, we're gonna speed through all these probably tomorrow. So yeah, probably the biggest thing is today we might add in the spider as a new monster in our database, and then work on the stealthing behavior. The purple slime uses the red slime strategy, a giant purple slime uses the yellow slime strategy, and a swamp frog behaves just like a chapter 1 frog. So nothing new to implement, which means chapter 4 monsters are going to be done by tomorrow for sure. So then we get to work on the 2 bosses, which I'm excited about. And I will finally submit a request for our pixel artist to make the images for our monsters that we've made over the past month and a half. So that's all exciting. And then I guess we start on boss code on Friday. Maybe even tomorrow. That'll be fun. It's been a fun journey. Oh yeah, there is another issue I want to address. Not for this project, for this project. I added it earlier today, but I noticed the credits display is very slow. And I already know why it's very slow. The way the draw routine works for the OSLED Pixel game engine is when it draws a bunch of text, it draws each character as a separate sprite. So that already sounds a little like inefficient, right? So if I go to drawstring decal, here's the function for drawstring decal. It's not actually the vanilla code. I added a garbage collector to it because it was actually like very non-performant before. So that's a whole nother story. This was implemented on like day 60 or something. It was so long ago that we optimized this. But the thing is, we don't use that for draw shadow strings. So you can see the draw shadow string code just draws every glyph. So this is like figuring out where to place the glyphs, and then it's just doing letters down, place back, and then for every letter it calls draw decal. So when you have like thousands of characters in one giant string, which the credits is one giant string, if we go to the credits config file, or not, that's not it. If we go to the credits config file, which is loaded into the game, this is what it looks like. It's an array of a bunch of strings that can get very long, and it auto wraps them. It's kind of expensive. So it's expensive enough to where I noticed the performance was an issue. The easiest way to fix this is instead of drawing directly to the screen every frame, we actually draw it to a texture and render the texture. So we can either make the texture by generating it through code and running it every time we change it, or we can have it generate it on the fly when it's loading the game. It will increase the loading time a little bit. But yes, it is a lot of draw calls, so that's why that's happening right now. So that's a little optimization we're gonna have to do as well. What build system are you using? So when I'm on my Windows computer, I just use a Visual Studio solution, but I also maintain a CMake file, which was generously provided by one of our community members to make it easy to manage Pixel Game Engine projects. So this is the CMake file, and so this will generate the correct, or this will correctly build it on a Linux or Mac system if I needed to, or for Emscripten. Like, I can literally do the Emscripten build on this system because it will use CMake for that. And I think I have a version of Emscripten on here. I just haven't run it in a while. I even have a Windows Emscripten build script. Yeah, I just maintain all these little build scripts. It's like, here's what we have to do. We have to copy a bunch of stuff over, and then we can do emcmake on our CMake file, which is funny. Yes, however, configuring it to generate a solution with everything in the right places is very hard, especially because mine is very custom, right? Like, I have special folders for everything. I throw some header files in the source files, so I can't just do a blanket, like, put every CPP file in one place. I also have, like, special resource file. Like, it's just a pain in the butt to try to customize it to do all this, like generating it from scratch, right? I'd rather maintain it myself. So that's why on Windows I just use this. It's just easier. And luckily it's very easy to install MSVC, so Visual Studio just simplifies the whole process. For sure. Because this CMake file will generate a Windows solution, but it's awful. And I've talked with the creator of the CMake file to like try to fix some of the friction that I had with it, and he's done a good job. It's a lot better now, but this project was developed started 3 years ago, so it's hard to keep up. But yeah, that's the explanation for that. One thing I would like to do, it would take a very long time. I really wish I could use a unit testing system that is not tied to Visual Studio, because the only way to run tests right now is on Visual Studio. Like, I wish I could put it in my CI. That would be great if it can run the unit test in here and then while it's building, but unfortunately I didn't design it that way, and now I have so many tests I would have to... This would literally be like a 2-week project to convert it. First I have to find a unit testing suite, I have to rewrite all the tests to use that unit testing suite, it'd just be a pain. Or I could roll my own. So that's the current thing I wish I could have, but we're committed, so it is what it is. It works fine, just not ideal. This game will have 5 chapters. And we're currently in the middle of chapter 4. Google Test. It can work in Visual Studio, but you are under no obligation. That's fair, and I notice it has documentation of that on Microsoft Docs as well, so that's nice. I could probably just follow that. I think the reason why I ended up choosing this was I literally was like, I've never done unit testing in Visual Studio before. I'm gonna take whatever works first, right? So I never got to this point where I got to try to use it, so it'll either be for another project or maybe just like a future thing I do if I want like a no-code day. Like I said, sometimes if we need a break, we can do like maintenance things on the project. There's tons of warnings to fix. There's classes I want to like move around in headers. I want to optimize the header includes to not include so many things within each other so compile times are faster. And then there's the whole unit testing thing. And we also have a bunch of tasks to optimize things. So, or fix things. It's like, there's always so much to do, right? And I'm just one dev. I can't... Doing all this is gonna take a long time, but ideally we would like to get to that point. But yes, thank you for the recommendation. Definitely noted. Oh yeah, no, it's saved us a million times over. Like, I have no regrets for writing unit tests. It has proven very useful, and viewers that have watched my stream have seen how useful it's been. Like, it has saved me in so many situations. It made it so, like, this recent refactor, I basically go in fearless, because I know my tests are going to catch anything wrong with my systems, so it's amazing. It's like, the way I think of it is like every unit test you write, you are hiring a new worker to specifically test one thing every single time, and they'll do it perfectly every single time. So you get more value out of it the more you add. And it's like, that's one less thing I have to test every time. There's no way I could test all of these things every single time I make a change to the game and make sure the game doesn't crash, make sure it has the intended behavior, right? Like, especially for an RPG game, you have so many stats to manage. It's like, how do I know how do I know the recovery, the health recovery still works? How do I know a certain buff still works? How do I know a certain debuff still works? How do I know the buff system is even doing what the buff system is supposed to do, right? Like, there's so many things that an RPG system that can go wrong with the core of an RPG system that I feel like having unit tests for a game this large is pretty much mandatory. Like, there's no way I'm going in and testing all 6 of my classes on all, like, 50 monster types with all, I think it's like 40 abilities, and yeah, it would just be a pain, right? There are too many combinations. Making sure every ring still works, every sword, every armor. This quickly turns into a situation where unit tests save the day. So I always explain the importance of that and how much it actually matters. Because it has mattered a lot. And it took like... I feel like in total, writing a unit test probably takes like maybe half an hour, sometimes less, depending on how complex it is. But like, the benefits you get out of that are like so much more. I also heard some people use AI to help generate relevant unit tests. I feel like that's valid. It could probably get the basics for you. Okay, so every test has passed, so I'm confident our game works. So it's time to do a PR. Finally, it's been a long time coming. So we're going from Skeleton Fire Mage into Master. So yeah, this took about a month to do, so we've definitely changed a lot since then. I don't really have to review it because we've been working on it actively so much. Where's the actual create? Is that the top? Oops. Okay, so this is in relation to issue 84. Issue number 84. I don't know why it's not popping up, but that's what it's for. This is enhancement. Okay. And then now we just have to make sure it builds on Emscripten. Create, merge, commit. Wait, it already did this? Oh yeah, we submitted it like a long time ago. Okay, cool. I'm glad. So yeah, it's good to go. It builds on Emscripten, so we at least have some confidence that it works on the web. Yay! We're all done. We're merged. Thank goodness. Okay. So now we're going to make a new branch. Let's do a... Well, let's update master now so that we're not pulling a dead branch. Let's... where's fetch? Sync? Yes. Bring changes to master. Let's discard that, actually. We don't need it. And then sync. It disappeared. Okay, master sync. Okay, now we're up to date. It refreshed again. I think it's because we like changed the project during this. Okay, so we're up to date. No more commits in remote that we're behind. Looks good. So let's create a branch off of this called... We're doing spiders next, so we'll just call it spider. Spooter. Okay, so now we're in the spider branch. Let's go over to our monster list. And let's create a new spider monster. So this is how we create a new monster for our game. We're just gonna call it spider. We look at these specs that our game designer has provided. So we have... Oh, the move speed is missing. I wonder if that was intentional. I guess I should probably message him what that's supposed to be, because it's just gone. And I don't think I deleted it by accident. Now I want to know. My computer is dying right now. Why? Visual Studio's like given up or something. How? We have me. I have a local who helps make the music, and I have a friend who does pixel art. So, I guess that's really the significant contributors. Game designer also does the levels, so they're pretty much the mastermind of the project. And then of course myself, the programmer. So about 4 significant contributors, but we've gotten graphics from like other people too. Like we commissioned the character art from a very specific person. I've gotten most of the tile sets from itch.io folks. And of course we have this all in the credits, so yeah. Oh yeah, it sure does. And I hike it up. I hike it up really high, so it does hiccup every once in a while. Anyway, I wanted to see if there was like a blame on this. Like maybe I deleted it by accident. Okay, there is no blame. So that means it never got modified, just it never got written. So yeah, I will need that piece of information. I'm just gonna message my game designer real quick. I'm gonna assume it's pretty fast. It's a spider, right? But he tends to balance everything, so I want to know what his intention was. Okay. I use Arch Linux. One thing I will say, like, I have gone flack for using Visual Studio, right? But you kind of get what you download, right? The reason why Visual Studio is so bloated is because it comes with a bunch of tools and helpful features. So if you can make use of a lot of those, which I tend to do, then you kind of get your bang for your buck. But it comes at a cost, right? Part-time, yeah, it's just for fun. This is a hobby project, that's why it's been ongoing for 3 years. We don't, like, get paid for it or anything, so we just do it for fun. Exactly. That is an important point. And I respect the people that can use other things. I have and do use, like, Visual Studio Code on Linux systems. It works pretty well. But one of the... It's funny, because this project was originally... I was working on Linux, and I think the IntelliSense, the language server, I forgot what I was using. It was like Clang D or something. It would freak out on my project, because my project is just so massive, it couldn't figure out anymore. So I'm like, no autocomplete is kind of a deal breaker for me, because there's just so much going on, it's hard for me to remember everything. Like, how am I supposed to remember the names of every single thing I need to access, right? With how large the project is. Some would argue, like, it's just poor design if I can't remember the names of everything, but at the same time, I don't expect a human to remember everything. Looking up, like, every little variable takes time, right? I have to open new files, I have to go scroll for what I want. It might not even be the thing I want, right? Like, it's just more convenient when IntelliSense can do its job. I found MSVC does a better job with parsing IntelliSense. Although it does produce gigabytes and gigabytes of data. So I noticed that. It does a lot of caching. I'm using Visual Studio Code right now, and it works wonderful for a beginner programmer. Yes. You do have to configure it right, though. It is just a fancy text editor, and you kind of have to look up instructions to specifically tailor it to your needs. But that's kind of the design philosophy behind Visual Studio Code. But yeah, once I found out that, like, on Linux, IntelliSense just breaks, I'm like, that's kind of a deal breaker. And I found Visual Studio does a much better job of handling that. I could try another language server, but some are just not as good as others. In some IDEs, I tried other IDEs at first. A lot of them left more to be desired. Like, I personally like using mouse. Like, I know a lot of folks say, like, oh, if you can get used to keeping your hands on the keyboard all the time, you become a lot faster, which is true. But I like having the ability to move windows around. Like, it just feels very intuitive, right? I move windows around a lot. I want things in specific places. I'm sure Visual Studio has shortcuts for them too, but I just never bothered to learn them. Like, I do, like, do split panes and stuff. Like, I learned the necessities, right? For my IDE. But yeah. Again, it's like E.B. Vartan was saying, it's like, you kind of just work with what you got, what you learn, right? Every developer is different, and I think that's part of the nice thing about every developer being different, is everybody has their own style. And so this is mine. Some people care more about efficiency, some people care more about it looking nice and cool. I'm on that side of it. Plus, since I stream, like, my text size is intentionally bigger. So one thing you'll notice is, like, my IDE has very little, like, wasted space. I know people that have, like, a bunch of toolbars and maybe, like, a terminal at the bottom and maybe, like, a file explorer on the side, right? Or something. And it's like, that does take up a lot of space, and I like to just see my code, so I try and hide as much as I can. Yeah, it's all preference in the end. But again, that's part of the fun. So anyways, we'll add in the data that we do have here. So we have a spider, which is 500 health. We have 51 attack. We'll assume collision damage is the same unless otherwise specified. Movement speed, we don't know. We assume it's a spider, so it'll be pretty fast. And then size is 70%, with XP being 34. So those are the basics. It's not going to have any abilities, so we can erase all that. It's not overriding anything. The strategy it will use is just called Spider. And we'll just have the default animations for now. And we'll leave everything else the same. Sea Lion. Yeah, I see Sea Lion come up a few times. I gave it a try, at least the trial, and I did like it more than Visual Studio Code, but again, the window management I didn't quite like. Like, to me, the window management is super important. Like, that's why I stuck with Visual Studio Code and Visual Studio. I'm like, I can literally move the windows around and like split things in half and or put things below, above, everywhere. So to lose that feature or to have it be a lot more limited in other editors was like a deal breaker for me, right? Only free for a year. That is true. Or at least it was true the last time we looked at it. I forgot what I was doing. Oh, we're going in and we're adding a placeholder spider sprite. So when we make a new sprite in the game or a new monster, we have to add in a sprite that has the matching like name. So I'm just going to use a frog for now as the spider. It has 4 rows. Oh wait, that's not going to work because we have directional sprites. At least we want the sprite to be... Oh wait, we said false for this 4-way sprite sheet. I'll just leave it like that for now. We can change it later if we want, but yeah. So for now, it's going to be a 4-way... It's not going to be a 4-way sprite sheet, which means it just uses a side-facing sprite and either makes it face left or right. And so we're just calling that spider.png as 4 rows, so that matches the 4 animation frames, so the game will load that. And then we need to add a new monster script called spider. So we'll go over here to monster strategies, and we'll just duplicate the do nothing here. We'll go ahead and copy paste. Wait, show all files is turned... It says cannot copy when show all files is turned off. Oh, right. We have to switch to the Explorer view or folder view. So for those that didn't know, in Visual Studio, the Explorer view does not necessarily show all the files... I did this wrong. Folder view does not show all the files in the folder. So it's not representative of what the file structure actually looks like. So Visual Studio, like, it's the solution is a confusing concept a lot of times. So yeah, it just explicitly won't let you do that. It's one of the downsides of using this. But we can paste here and should get a copy. And we can do a rename. Anytime we want to actually manage files, we have to go to the folder view. It's just a Visual Studio thing. Also, I have no clue what just happened. I think CMake updated, but by accident. Anyway, this should be spider.cpp, and then I can go back to solution view, and and we can add that to our list now, because it's not actually going to appear in here because it's not added to the solution. So I have to go in, well, it should be in here. And now I have added spider.cpp, so we can open it. And it's going to be like the do nothing code, which is great because that's what we're starting with. We're going to have to add in the spider enum to define strategy. So we'll go over to our strategy names and add in spider. And then that's all we have to do. Everything else will be automatically defined. And then now we can begin writing the spider AI. So it uses the dagger goblin behavior. So when we're not running the spider, we are just running the dagger goblin behavior. So we can do m dot run strategy. Something's happening on my computer again. It like slowed down. Visual Studio, please. Ugh. I just want to write code. And this will be goblin dagger. So the thing is, if it's running the goblin dagger behavior, we need to give it properties that match animation wise. So we have to go to the dagger goblin and we have to add in animations for these behaviors, stabbing, slash, and stab. And for now, I'm just gonna copy the attack animation, which is the third row. That way, they're just placeholder sprites, so we don't care too much about it actually working right now. So I'm gonna open with GIMP. And we're just gonna copy the third row 3 times. So let's do grid size is 12 by 12. Let's expand by 24 times 3, which is 84. 24 times 3. No, that doesn't sound right. 72. So plus 72 is 168. Layer to image size, and then let's copy you 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. My silly frog. Then save that. Okay. Hello? Alright. That way it's up to date. And also, if we update the assets in the game, we have to delete the generated asset pack because it has to regenerate it with the new sprite. Otherwise, they'll just say sprite was not found. So at the very least, we need that. And then we have to go into... I should have kept GIMP open. So the next thing we have to do is go to, if I can find it, we have to open up the file containing all of the monsters in it. It's like a collection of all the monsters, because when we work on the map editor, it lets us select like a monster tile. That way we can like put what spawns where, right? It's just part of it. So I have to go to, I think it's under maps actually. Yeah. So we have to edit monster tile sets.png and add an entry for it. So these are supposed to be, I think, I always have trouble with this. I think it's like 72 by 72 or something weird. No, it's 36, 36. So No, it's not that either. What? Okay, it's 48 by 48. So I need to like write something down for that. I'm just gonna put it down here because I always get confused. These are 48 by 48. Well, I can kind of see based on the sheet size, it does say 480 by 480. So there is that. Where's my text? Oh. That's funny. I'm just gonna put that there for now. So anyways, I'm just gonna add an entry for the spider for now. It just looks like a frog. That'll change later, of course. Oops. Just like this. Then we have to make a spider tile inside our monsters list. So we're gonna go to... I think I just called it... Where is it? Is it... down here? Oh, here. Monster presets. I can just make a... pull a new tile from this. Where's my tiles? Monsters. So you can go ahead and add a new object. Go ahead and define its name. So this is a spider, of course. And it has a... Oh, I hate it when it does this. Like it zooms in, but in the wrong spot of my mouse. I don't know why it does that. That's very annoying. Thank you, tile. Okay, anyway. Spider class monster. Since it has a size of 70%, I'm going to scale it down here, so it kind of represents what it would look like in game. So it would go from being 48 by 48 times 70%, 33.6 by 33.6. So that's roughly what the size it will look like in game. And then I can save this as a template. And then we can go in our game and actually add it to our map. I can just be like, here's a spider. And you spawn here. And so now that's all set up. Did I? Oh. Oh, thank you. Interesting. Yeah, it just like crashed or something. But thank you. I wonder when that happened. So yeah, now that we've added a monster here, the next thing I want to do is, well, we can try running it and seeing if it works, right? Usually I forget something during this process, but that's most of the process of just getting a new monster into the game. At least the bare minimum. And then it should just run with the goblin dagger behavior. So it'll literally like hop over to us and then try to stab us, which would look absolutely hilarious for a spider that is that has a frog sprite. We're probably have to adjust to like animation times and stuff eventually when we get the real sprites for it. So that's gonna be a thing. But yeah, it's getting pretty late, so I'll probably call it very soon here. I just wanted to get like this stuff started, of course. And then tomorrow we'll continue. I guess it's nice to be working on the actual gameplay stuff again, right? YouTube's smooth and Twitch is a slideshow. Let me see. What are you doing, Twitch? I have no idea. It might be just like your end. Maybe you have to refresh it. It looks okay. It looks okay on my end. But Twitch could be lying to me. Oh, what happened here? Alright, let's see. What is this? I want the error, please. The error was... strategy for spider does not exist in the... oh, I need to actually make it in the strategy file. That would be great. So, the spider strategy. We're not going to include anything in it just yet, but we do have to have it in the file. Welcome back. Thank you. Yeah, we're going to be ending stream soon. Apparently, Twitch just decided to die on me, which is weird. Strategy for... I just did that. Strategy for spider should exist. I added spider. I called it spider, right? I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah, I just called it spider, so... here's spider. And in... yeah, that should be all I have to do. That's weird. I hit save, right? Maybe it doesn't load if I don't include anything. Like, I have to put something here. Test. Is that a bug with the parser? It doesn't actually create it if there's not anything there? Nope, it just says it doesn't exist. I must have not created it in the actual... oh, there's probably another function I have to update. Let me see here. Monster strategies begin, return. So this is where it errors out inside of monster strategies. Where do I update this? This must be the problem. I need to update this thing. Let's see. So here's the insert for each monster strategy. Adds, oh, okay. Oh, it's in here, runstrategy.cpp. I feel like I have to make a reminder to update this thing. I always forget. Here's add strategy. Yeah, it definitely has been a minute to tie the spider strategy to the spider name. Okay, so we should be good now. I think IntelliSense is just catching up. Yeah, it definitely crashed earlier. Spider is an undeclared identifier. Is it monster strategy enum? I swear we did this already. Maybe the change didn't go. Oh, nope. We just like completely missed this step of adding stuff. That's my bad. Also, I'm gonna put a giant like block here. This should be the last item. Whee! Don't touch. Okay. We like to do that. Yeah, sometimes the player can do weird things. I know for me, typically, like, it will just go black, and then we're like, well, what happened? Why is it just black? Even though the stream is clearly running, like when it restarts or something. But yeah, we're just gonna make sure it spawns in game. We'll try to do the stealth thing real quick. Let me see if there's like a blend color function, because that's how I imagine we would do this, is we would have like, we'd specify like a blend or something. So there must be some, we've probably done this before somehow. Anything related to color? Maybe like, maybe not. Any parameters at all that could possibly do this? I guess the hint would be to go look in the monster render function and see if it gives us a hint. Because surely we like update the colors for other things, so maybe we'll find something. At least that's the hope. Come on. Okay, maybe not. It's hard for my computer to do anything during a build. Let's go to draw, which is not... Oh wait, we're in monster data. We want to be a monster. Then go to draw. Okay. So here we have get buff blend color. So then we set the blend color, which is a local variable here. But do we not change it? So we might have to actually add a blend color property to let us change a blend color of a monster. Or at least the alpha. Do we have a way to change the transparency? Let's look for like alpha. Transparency? Nothing. Nothing at all. Okay. Well, let's see here. So, draw base monster. It uses COL. So what COL is a parameter passed in here. By default, it's white. Draw base monster is called here. Uses blend color. Okay. So we can't touch the color of the monster right now. We have to make something that does that. There's nothing that actually references the color that way. Let's just see if the spider spawns in. I specified the wrong sheet size. Whatever. It is what it is. Okay. Yep. Okay. So right now it's using the dagger goblin behavior, which is fine. That's what it's supposed to be anyway. Okay. So now let's go ahead and make a way for monsters to accept... I guess we just care about transparency. We don't even need coloring. So on top of everything we're already doing, let's add a new function that lets us change the monster's transparency. Set blend alpha. Set alpha. Set transparency. 1 minute, sorry. Okay. Sorry about that. Just a phone call. Set transparency. I think this is fine. And we just ask for a uint 8. Because that's all it takes. I'll just call this the alpha. We'll also need a property to hold this value, so we'll just default it to 255. Everything should normally be visible. Now, we do have an invisible flag, but my issue is I want it to, like, fade out. I don't want it to just immediately go invisible. So there is that. Oh, there's a fade timer. Wait a second, what is this for? Hold on. That might be what we want. Or we might be able to use that in conjunction with whatever we're trying to do. I have to find out what this fade timer is. Solid fade timer. Okay, that's probably for solid stuff. Let's see if we can use this. Because I would rather not have to add a new property if I can avoid it. There's already so much complexity in this thing. Okay, handle monster lifetime and fade timer. So how does this work for rendering? Because the fade timer will decrease, but we want to see how it works in conjunction with rendering. Let's go down here. Here we go. So it interpolates from whatever the current alpha is to 0 based on fade timer. So it probably stores an original fade timer when we set it. Fade timer, it's like, how does it lifetime? Does it use... How does it know what the original fade time is? Right? Because I'm looking at this, it's like, okay, if it interpolates, is this out? And it goes from 0 to 2. Okay, so fade timer is forced to be a value between 0 and 1 second. Which is kind of an annoying limitation. Do I still want to... Oh, I see. It even says that in the comment. I mean, I don't mind that. Just... Also, it looks like the fade timer doesn't work unless the lifetime is... Wait. If fade timer is greater than 0, reduce it. And if it... Okay, it marks it for deletion. So it's not even good for our use case. Because this is for, like... Alright, the monster is dead. Fade it out. That's like the idea. And it's used for the pillars in the game. There's a boss that spawns pillars, and when the pillars die, we just make it fade out gradually. I don't really think I can integrate this variable with what I'm trying to do, so I think it's better we just make a new thing. It would be a lot simpler to implement, and unfortunately this doesn't quite do what I want. So we're just gonna add a new function called set transparency. We'll do again a uint t of what we want the actual alpha to be, and then we'll store that inside of here. We'll just call it transparency, and default value will be 255. So with that in place, we can now set it by calling it inside of here. We're gonna need a state class or enum, just like we did before for that other monster. One is an initialize, and then one is a run or update. So then we do a switch based on our current phase. We do a case for each of these. Like so. And then move this into the run. After we initialize, we set the phase to run. And the initialize is going to set the well, actually, why do we need an initialize? That's the real question. It's more like we just set a fade. We need like phases related to like fading in and out, but not necessarily a phase that obstructs the run strategy. The run strategy goes no matter what, but depending on... Okay, so we probably don't need this. We need a way to access the current transparency, though. I don't think... Well, Spider is not a friend class of this, so it won't have access to it, so we need to provide a way to get the transparency. So get transparency. It'll be a const function. And then we're gonna have to also implement it. So I think we'll leave it as a to-do, and I think this is a good stopping point. So we know what to work on. We're going to implement the stealth behavior tomorrow. I'm also going to get what the intended speed of this monster was supposed to be from my game designer, because they literally left it blank. And then, yeah, we can work on that tomorrow. So implementing it in the render code shouldn't be too hard. I think I just have to do some math with the current blend color, and we should be okay. Like, I probably just do it as a ratio. Divide by 255, multiply it by the blend color to get the final result. I think it'll be that easy. So yeah. Good stopping point, but good progress today. We finally committed did a pull request after a month, and a lot of refactoring, so I'm very happy. For those of you that tuned in and watched, thanks for watching today. It's been a lot of fun discussions, and I hope to see you all tomorrow. We're going to continue working on it, so thank you, and you all have a good one. Until next time, bye.